Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering Trump's massive layoffs. It's a bloodbath as Trump and Musk launch 200,000 layoffs on the federal workforce. Trump's administration ordered the mass firing of probationary federal employees, affecting potentially hundreds of thousands of employees. The number we're seeing right now is around 200,000, which is a little bit less than 10% of the federal workforce. That is an astronomical number. The reason they're after probationary employees is because these employees have had a job with the federal government for anywhere from a year to up to 2 years. And because they're on probation, they're not permanent employees with the same civil service protections as other employees get. At the same time, you have to wonder, maybe these people should have taken the buyout offer when the buyout offer was there. 75,000 other workers did take the buyout offer, and they're going to get paid for 8 months. Elon Musk, heading the Department of Government Efficiency, is advocating for entire agencies to be dismantled. Workers at agencies like Education, Veterans Affairs, and Financial Protection were fired without warning. Critics call it a politically motivated purge, targeting workers hired before Trump took office. I don't know how that would be politics necessarily, but really they just want a much smaller federal workforce, and that's why they're letting people go. Trump is defending the move, claiming that federal workers, quote, aren't working and must be cut. The layoffs extend to critical research teams, including the VA medical researchers. We don't know exactly what they're researching. We know a lot of research that's been funded by the federal government, though, has not been for direct cures. It's been for things like social justice, DEI, nonsensical contracts that they hand out for millions of dollars with no real benefit, except to try to make an argument based on their research that everyone is racist. I mean, that is what they do. They also do fund important medical research, and that's the research we want to see more of. Get the social agenda stuff out of the program. Employee unions and government watchdog groups warned that the cuts could cripple essential public services. Trump's previous attempt at buyouts didn't get the whole target he wanted. He wanted 5 to 10% of all the federal employees. He got 3%. And that was mainly for 2 reasons. One, there was a federal court that tied up the buyout offer and made it confusing for employees about whether or not they could or couldn't get the buyout offer. Also, there was a lot of mass media and these kind of employee unions that were telling people, no, don't take the buyout offer. You might not get paid, as if the federal government's not going to pay you. Employees at NSF and HUD were warned that more drastic job cuts are coming. Elon Musk still suggests these cuts are just the beginning, hinting at even larger government downsizing. We've already seen a lot of court challenges to everything that the president and the administration are trying to do. We're going to see many more court challenges because that's the only power that the opposition has now. The public in general does support the changes that the administration is making. From Zero Hedge, Trump and DOGE fire layoff bazooka, targets 200,000 federal workers on probation. The Trump administration has intensified its efforts to streamline the bloated government, directing federal agencies to terminate 200,000 workers on probation. Those who have been in their roles for less than a year, or in some cases, up to 2 years. The move, part of the Department of Government Efficiency, comes shortly after 75,000 federal workers accepted buyout offers. The impact of this, of course, as well, is the next time that the federal government says, hey, who wants a buyout offer? Probably about 4 to 5 times the number of people who took it in the first place, a few 100,000, 400,000 people will accept that offer, because what's the alternative? You're going to get fired, and then maybe you can sue, and then who knows what happens. On Thursday afternoon, DOGE's crosshairs were aimed at probationary workers because they have fewer protections and no right to appeal. The blitz to streamline the federal government and eliminate corruption has been a shock to the DC swamp and the corrupt deep state politicians, siphoning taxpayer funds through shadowy NGOs. This was done by Trump and DOGE's efforts to neuter USAID. The latest data from the U.S. Office of Personnel Management indicates that 200,000 federal employees have been in their roles for less than a year. According to CNN, termination notices were emailed to these workers on Thursday. The dismissal of probationary workers comes after Bloomberg reported on Thursday morning that 75,000 workers across various federal agencies had opted for the buyout. However, the number only makes up about 3% of the 2.4 million civilian federal workforce, far short of the White House Press Secretary's Carolyn Leavitt's target of 5 to 10%. Earlier on Thursday, DOGE's Elon Musk joined Dubai's annual World Government Summit via video link to provide an update on his DOGE efforts. But we need to delete entire agencies. We need to remove the roots of the weed. That's not to say there won't be an increase in future bureaucracy from another administration, but it will be from a lower baseline. Nothing is forever, but we can strengthen the foundation, according to Musk. At the start of this week, Trump signed an executive order to eliminate what he described as waste and bloat in the government, while promptly undertaking preparations to initiate large-scale reductions in force. He called it a critical transformation of Washington, D.C., and framed the move as a necessary step forward for the nation. And the job cuts are far from over. The Health Department was on edge about rumors that the newly sworn-in Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. would begin cuts in the coming days. And those rumors are that it could be as much as 50% of the workforce. It's hard to believe it would be that much, but I'm sure it will be a lot. Activist lawmakers have initiated the lawfare stage by attempting to use activist judges to block DOGE's efforts to expose government abuses and cut waste. Optically, any attempt by Democrats to slow down or halt DOGE presents a major political risk, as voters gave Trump a mandate to stop corruption in D.C. and drain the swamp. From The Guardian, some federal workers given just 30 minutes to leave amid Trump layoffs. As many as 200,000 U.S. workers slated to be affected by mass terminations as Musk leads crusade to slash spending. Some federal employees who have been laid off under the Trump administration's unprecedented plan to slash the federal workforce were reportedly given only 30 minutes to pack their belongings and vacate federal offices. Federal agencies were ordered by Donald Trump to fire mostly probationary staff, with as many as 200,000 workers set to be affected and some made to rush off the premises. More layoffs are expected on Friday, according to Reuters, as thousands of employees have already been terminated and the purge is widening. The large-scale strategy led by Elon Musk's so-called Department of Government Efficiency, that is actually what it's called, is meant to cut costs by downsizing the federal government. Trump and Musk have both criticized the federal workforce as being oversized, with Trump calling the federal government bloated and filled with people that are unnecessary. Musk said on Thursday that the U.S. should delete entire agencies, comparing them to weeds that needed to be rooted out. But massive layoffs have created chaos for affected federal employees. Thousands of workers were fired in group calls or via pre-recorded messages in recent days, according to the Post. Others were told that they would be laid off by email, but never received such messages. About 100 employees at the Office of Personnel Management were fired in a Microsoft Teams group call, according to CNN, and told that they had half an hour to leave the building. OPM workers were told that they were terminated because they did not accept the Trump administration's deferred resignation plan, according to the American Federation of Government Employees Union, who told this to CNN. If they would have just taken the buyout offer, they would have been paid through September 30th, 2025. Everett Kelly, head of the AFGE, which represents 800,000 federal workers, has condemned the layoffs and promised to use every legal challenge available in comments to the Washington Post. Quote, employees were given no notice, no due process, and no opportunity to defend themselves in a blatant violation of the principles of fairness and merit that are supposed to govern federal employment, according to Kelly. So far, at least 6 agencies have carried out widespread layoffs. The Department of Veteran Affairs, which oversees services and benefits to military veterans, laid off 1,000 probationaries. A termination notice to VA employees stated, and CNN reported, quote, the agency finds based on your performance that you have not demonstrated that your further employment at the agency would be in the public interest. Termination notices were also sent to employees at the Department of Education, the Small Business Administration, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and the General Services Administration. Additional layoffs are expected at the National Science Foundation and Department of Housing and Urban Development, according to the Post, citing a person with knowledge on the reductions who spoke anonymously. All the job cuts come as a judge ruled on Wednesday that the Trump administration's buyout offers could proceed, with officials then closing the plan to employees who may have still been weighing the decision. That judge extended the opportunity for employees to say, yeah, I want the buyout. But because of all the legal action, it became very confusing for people. So as soon as the judge ruled that the buyouts could proceed, the Trump administration closed down the opportunity for employees to accept the buyout offers. What's the point of paying a union or an advocacy group and giving them dues if they can't help you? Here's what they have to say. Major union and advocacy groups condemn mass firings of probationary employees. The largest federal employee union, as well as an advocacy group for the government workforce, have condemned the Trump administration's move to fire employees in their probationary period. Everett Kelly, we just heard from this guy, accused the Trump administration of targeting workers new in their positions simply because they wanted to get rid of them. Well, yeah, they're letting people go because they say the government is too big and it's unwieldy, and they don't think that it's productive to have this many employees. Quote, this administration has abused the probationary period to conduct a politically driven mass firing spree, targeting employees not because of performance, but because they were hired before Trump took office. There is no evidence these employees were anything but dedicated public servants. They're about power. They're about gutting the federal government, silencing workers, and forcing agencies into submission to a radical agenda that prioritizes cronyism over competence. And Max Stier, president and CEO of the Partnership for Public Service, said that the move could be crippling to workforce's future functionality. Quote, the Trump administration's decision to fire civil servants who have been in service for under a year is yet another profoundly damaging action. With just over 7% of federal employees under age 30, our government needs a new generation of workers with the necessary skills to better serve the needs of our modern society. By terminating employees simply because they are the most vulnerable, the Trump administration has thrown away our down payment on the future. Many of those who lost their jobs today were newer hires made in the areas of great need for our government, including AI, cybersecurity, and technology. It's ultimately our country that will pay a heavy price for this arbitrary dismantling of the civil service. Based on those two statements, it doesn't sound like the union people are winning this conflict. And from the Associated Press, CDC to lose 1/10 of its workforce under Trump administration's probationary job cuts. That's a lot of employees. Nearly 1,300 probationary employees at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, roughly 1/10 of the agency's workforce, are being forced out under the Trump administration's move to get rid of all probationary employees. We are going to see a lot of changes in the federal government no matter what these lawsuits try to do to restrict the federal government, because that's what people voted for. And now the federal government is in a position to fix itself, shrink it down to size, modernize with AI, whatever it is they've got to do. But there's really nothing that can stop this momentum. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you. And if you want to support the channel and help me make even more videos, subscribe to the channel and become a paid member today.